Transcorp Power Plc is reporting robust half-year 2025 results, posting a 77.6 billion naira gross profit and declaring an interim dividend of 11.25 billion naira. The company's revenue surged by 52% to 205.8 billion naira, driven by enhanced generation capacity and operational efficiency. Profit before tax rose 15% to 58.7 billion naira. Chairman Emmanuel Nnorom cited disciplined cost management and resilience, while CEO Peter Ikenga highlighted a 100-megawatt generation increase year-on-year. Despite inflation and forex measures, the company maintained strong performance, reinforcing investor confidence. Transcorp Power remains committed to powering Nigeria and Africa with sustainable growth and long-term value creation. We have Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO Finance with Mukhtar, joining us now for the conversation. A pleasure having you in.
Thank you, Joanna. My pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning to you. Now, what would you identify here as the key drivers behind Transcorp Power's 52% revenue growth in H1 2025?
Yeah, for me, the key drivers there are increased capacity in generation, about 100 megawatts, and also the effective management of costs. I think those are the two key drivers of that result, because, again, if you compare that result to what they had half year last year, when you didn't have this 110 megawatts, it was you could see that result was just the difference is clear with the profit difference of about 52%. So definitely is driven by that 110 megawatt addition to the generation capacity, and also cost-effective management, especially when you know that we are having challenges to deal with FX volatility. So I think for me, those are the two key drivers of that result.
Right, and in just 6 months, as you pointed out, one of the things that drove the results is the increased generation capacity. In just 6 months, 100 megawatt increase in generation capacity. How were they able to achieve this?
You see, you have to give it to them. I think they've been ingenious in their own capacity building to increase their megawatts. And they also, the long-term plan is to add about 1,300 megawatts to the national grid, which for me is very ambitious, but with what they've been able to achieve now, it seems to be a child play. Because again, how were they able to achieve this? You know, the area that they actually operate is a very volatile area that is have insecurity and others challenges. But what they've done was to involve the community in making sure that they protect all their power installation, and that with that they were able to improve capacity generation. So I think that's what we need to let a lot of companies know, that once you want to build your capacity, also you have to think of the area that you're operating on. And I think that's what they've been able to do. And they also have synergy with some power generation companies outside the shore of this country. All these have helped them to be able to build up what they want to add to their generation capacity of 100 megawatts.
In 6 months. Let's look at their performance on the NGX. We know it's been over a year since they listed. I believe sometime in March 2024 they did list on the NGX. How have they performed so far from an investor standpoint?
Well, if you look at from the investment standpoint, you see capital appreciation, especially in terms of driving of capital appreciation. You've seen that stock move from a low of about 53 naira to where it is today. And it's largely driven by investors' appetite for that stock, especially being one of the leading stock in the power sector. And investors are looking at the potentiality of the sector, because again, if you look at what is happening, the NGS entirely, you look at price, you look at earning per share, you look at a lot of issues, you realize that most what we are seeing in Transcorp Power is that investors are pricing in. They're pricing in the price for the future, looking at what the power sector will play in the Nigerian economy, and looking at Transcorp Power as one of the leading power generation company in Nigeria. And again, investors are also looking at them also acquire most of the generation plant again, if the federal government decide to sell some of their generational plan, and they think that with their experience, they might be able to get more of the generation plan. The investors are also looking at the possibility of them also expanding to discos, also owning discos directly. So investors are pricing in those prices, looking at the future ability of Transcorp Power, and that is why you are seeing the type of capital appreciation you are seeing in that stocks.
So it's all potential investors are buying into at the moment. Let's look at the interim dividend. They've declared 11.25 billion naira in interim dividend. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think it can be sustained or improved in the second half of 2025?
Sustainability shouldn't be an issue, but I think it should be improved upon, because when you look at that dividend yield, when you look at that dividend payment, VAT dividend yield is just about 1.2% in terms of dividend yield. So definitely that's why I'd say that a lot of investors are pricing into that stocks, looking at the future potential of Transcorp holding. I think that's what a lot of investors are doing at the moment. So, but if you look at the price as it is now, other investment vehicles, especially in the market at this moment, you realize that Transcorp holding it looks a little bit more expensive. And when you look at the dividend yield, but like I said, investors are looking at the potentiality, the future growth of that company, and they are pricing it into it. I think the company might just have to improve in terms of the dividend payout. That will get more investors interested in Transcorp holding. But for now, I think the dividend payout is good commensurate to what you have last year. And so keeping up with that momentum, we expect them to improve. And that has always been the trademark of Transcorp Power.
All right, we'll see about that. We know that a lot of companies, I'm sure that you've been following, have had to deal with in the recent past forex volatility and inflationary pressures. Some of them are just getting their head above water. How has Transcorp Power been able to manage this particular situation to declare such profits?
One, I think, like I said, you need to look at the synergy between them and the host community. I think that has helped to bring stability in terms of generation, whereby their equipment, their infrastructure was not vandalized. You saw them also looking at local ways of generation. I think they talked about that during the FX challenges. And they also have cost management efficiency, looking at productivity in terms of reducing costs and also increasing their bottom line. All these were strategies that they used to make sure that they see the challenge of FX volatility and also inflationary pressure does not affect them that much. We won't say it didn't affect. That's why we think going forward, you begin to see some of those greater performance from Transcorp, because now we are seeing FX are stabilized at a certain price, and we still expect that with the inflow of liquidity and also investment, also that we are expecting that could drive FX lower than where it is today, and that also will help them. I think they've just been able to look at cost and efficiency and making sure that they make good use of their the fact that they know the locality, being an indigenous power company. Also, I think that has also helped, and also I think they also think about improvement in terms of having Nigerians more handling some of their key infrastructural development. So that help reduce challenges of paying FX to expatriates. I think that has been the key of why they've been able to be above the water.
Indeed. And let's talk about outlook. You have said or highlighted quite a number of things ahead. You've highlighted acquisitions. What's your outlook for Transcorp Power in terms of share price, right, and its performance on the stock exchange, and even in terms of the company performance itself for H2 2025?
Well, yeah, when you look at what we'll talk about, price is always based on perception. And its perception is always driven by company news and company information in terms of order. So for me, that is what we need to look at. What would drive the price performance will also be by perception and also, again, results. And if you look at that, where we are now with the power sector is still a very new area in terms of development, in terms of expansion, in terms of profitability, in terms of a lot of things that could be done in that sector. And so if you look at that, then there's still an upside in terms of profitability of Transcorp Holding Company. Now, secondly, if you look at performance on the NGX, they've been one of the top most performing stock in the NGS in terms of capital position, like I told you. So, and they've been stable in terms of that. And like I said, investors are pricing into this potentiality of this company. Then, if you look at if you look at the other issue as where do they stand in the NGX, they're the leading power sector company in the NGX. You don't expect that to go down anytime soon. Rather, you expect that leadership or that drive being the leading will continue for a very long time. So definitely, I think when you look at all these factors, pricing in coming, I've just mentioned about, then you know that there's still a lot to come from Transcorp.
And you have identified them, according to you, as the leading, power company listed on the NGX. Are there lessons that other competitors can perhaps learn from how they have performed as a company?
Of course, there's always a lesson to be learned, especially when you look at that half-year result and you look at the inflationary pressure and you look at the challenges that we've gone through in terms of inflation and FX. I think a lot of companies need to learn from that. But again, you could see that a lot of those companies have learned from it. If you look at the result that have been coming out from the NGX, most of these companies that have suffered in terms of FX volatility, inflationary pressure seems to be recovered because there seems to be a resilience in the Nigerian economy, especially as a result, inflation is coming down, FX is stabilized, but they have to look at in times of crisis, how do you manage your affair? I think that is what Transcorp Power have been able to do. They've been able to manage their affair, look inwardly, drive growth, improve productivity, and also enhance cooperation between them and the host community. I think that is a big lesson for Nigerian companies to learn.
Indeed. And finally, let's talk expansion. You have mentioned again a number of acquisitions locally. What are the expansion plans across Africa? We know that's a direction a lot of companies are exploring these days.
Well, in terms of expansion, I think what I normally say is that charity begins at home. So build your capacity at home, then you begin to look at the expansion. And I think most of the expansion will come come in the area of acquisition of some power plant. But when you look at Africa energy crisis, there's a lot room for a lot of expansion by this company. And I think they will be looking at that. And also the expansion also could not just be in the area of just expanding to major, but they will look at renewable energy to begin to look at other means to generate power in other countries, not necessarily Nigeria. I think for me that should be their key driver, not necessarily expansion in terms of the normal power generation, but thinking about how to exploit other energy sources to generate power. For me, that should be the key driver of their expansion, and that should start from here. And when that is done, then you begin to see them extend to other parts of the world, especially Africa, that have deficiency in terms of power supply.
So you're talking diversification when it comes to energy source and perhaps tilting towards renewables. Thank you so much for your time, Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO Finance with Mukhtar, for your perspective.